Hey, Thursday morning. Welcome. Good to see you here. So, I'm going to read a passage out of Second Corinthians chapter 12 if you want to follow along. But I have to give a little background, and we have to go about halfway around the block before we can get to, I think, a really good point that helps us today. So, Paul had this really interesting relationship with his Christian friends in the Greek city of Corinth. So he was the person who helped start the church, and as he traveled, he would write letters to them back and forth. And so we have two of those letters, First Corinthians, Second Corinthians, but there were obviously some other letters. And it appears that at some point after he helped start the church and then he left away, that their relationship had some problems. And some of the problems were that he would try to send them some information and sometimes try to correct them, and they wouldn't listen to him. The Corinthian people, the Corinthian society was very concerned with appearances and status symbols and things like that. And just like all of us as Christians, we have a hard time setting down the baggage that we've carried our whole life and living in the new kingdom kind of way. And so what they had begun to do was, as they encountered other Christians and other Christian leaders and speakers, they often got very carried away with externals. And so they had begun to kind of disrespect Paul because I don't think maybe he was quite as eloquent, or he was quite as good looking, or one of the weird things was he didn't ask for any money from them. And there was kind of this mentality of, well, if you got it for free, it can't be worth much kind of thing. And so for a bunch of reasons, they just kept putting Paul down and didn't give him any kind of respect like he should have gotten as God's messenger. And so the second letter to Corinthians, the truth is very painful at points. And he spends a fair amount of this letter talking about his status as an apostle and what God has done in his life and why they should listen to him. And then he even says, this is crazy for me to be writing you like this, and it sounds so awful. And so at one point then, he's even talked about how he's had like heavenly visions and angelic visions and some stuff like that. And now we're down to the point that I want us to talk to. So this is 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 7. To keep me from becoming conceited because of these surpassing great revelations, there was given to me a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest in me. So Paul was writing about a very specific situation in his own life. He had this thorn in the flesh. There's a lot of speculation about what that is. We really don't know. But whatever it was, I mean, he had really prayed very hard 3 times for God to take it away. God didn't, and said, my grace is everything that you need. And in fact, it's in your weaknesses that Christ's power is seen. And he said, so I'm glad to show my weaknesses. And so it's about a specific situation in his life, but that principle is a big principle that applies to all of our lives. And so as I'm thinking about what we're all going through now, this difficult situation will reveal some things about ourselves, and it will reveal some areas where we might struggle or where we might be weak, and cracks that sometimes we easily cover over become apparent. And so for me, if you know me at all, I'm a people person. And so this whole isolation thing is really hard for me. And I draw my energy off of other people, and I just like to be around people, lots of people, all the time. And so this is really hard for me. And this whole thing of this kind of thing, talking on video, that's really hard for me. I don't think that works very well for me, and I don't think I come across on video very well. I don't think I look very good on video, and so that whole kind of thing is really, really hard. And so what I've learned is that if these are weaknesses in my life, then at that kind of point, then I just need to depend on God more. That if ever there was a time that I've realized that anything I want to preach or teach, it's really not about me or my skills or my personality or anything about that. It's all about the power of God. And the real source of energy and vitality and all that kind of stuff in my life, it really doesn't need to come from other people. It needs to come from God. And so let me just encourage you. Whatever happens in your life during this difficult time that we're going through, and you've recognized some places where you're struggling, that Christ says, my grace is sufficient for you, and that it's actually at the weak points, at the cracks and the flaws in our life where Christ's power can be shown the most. Well, that's helped me during this time. I hope it helps you. Thanks so much. We'll see you on Sunday.